What's up guys, in this week's episode we get the heads on and bolted in. We're gonna check some shims, do some measuring and test fit my new Kelford 264 cams. Join along, it should be a hopefully not too boring ride. Alright guys, update. I've done one half of the head already. Just done it off camera because it's quicker to do it that way. And I want to go through with you my methodology for doing this other head. So right now we've got the head studs in. So we've done the head studs bolts in by hand and just hand tight with an Allen key. They're all in place. And now we've got the washers and the nuts, and according to the instructions we want to do them in 3 equal steps up to 60 foot-pounds. I've always been a believer that to give these washers a bit of roughness on the bottom, so this is the side that sits on the head and this is the side then that would slide against the nut. So I've just quickly run them over on the linisher just to give them a bit of roughness to help them bite down onto the head. And then the next step now is we'll apply lube to the bottoms of these nuts, the tops of these washers, and the threads on the actual head studs, all with the recommended ARP Super Lube. Alright, I'll do that now and just put you here. While the washers are on there, I'm just going to install the, not install, but lube up the threads. Principle behind lubing up these threads in this specific order is being the threads and the washers, but you don't lube the bottom of the washer that goes to the head, as you need that washer to bite, and you need the other washer to be able to slide to give you the correct torque figure. Alright, so now we've got all our washers lubed up and our nuts lubed up. We just start screwing them on. Hopefully I don't make the same mistake I made last time on the other head, where I dropped one down the back of one of the oil passages. That was not a fun time. So we go 20 to begin with. Now we'll go for 40. So here I am just making sure that I've got each of the bolts tight and just checking to make sure I haven't missed anything. I did all these in a crisscross pattern So this is just a final check to make sure I haven't actually missed one of them. Always a good practice to double check and to ensure that there are no inconsistencies with your torque values. Alright, now P3 will go 60. And there you have it. Heads are officially torque to spec. Alright, so now we are up to putting the cams in the heads. So this step involves making sure our clearances are all correct. So we're aiming for a 1/8 thou gap on the intake side and a 1/10 thou gap on the exhaust side. To do so, I want to do this as properly as I can, so I'm pulling out all the buckets. I pulled out all the shims underneath. I'm going to measure each shim as we go. Got them set up here right now. So as you can see, we've got intake buckets, and then next to those are the shims. So I'm still keeping everything in order the best I can. They will get all switched around eventually. But as a baseline, I want to know the thickness of each of these shims. I am 90% sure they're all going to be the same because they all should be set the same from the factory. So they don't have multiple shims going around, and they just tip the valves to be the correct, to give the correct clearances. So that's where I'm up to right now. I'll put you on camera and I'll get these exhaust ones out. And I'll see you when I've got this side all off. Out. Now we will measure and record the heights of all these shims, so I know as a baseline what every shim is, and then after that it'll make it easy to know if I've got any different sizes and which ones I may or may not have to order for the new Kelford cams. Now I have all my measurements for the left hand side and right hand side. We'll pull all these valves and shims, buckets and shims back into the head, and we'll start installing cams and testing clearances. Just show you real quick. I'm going to put these VVTi gears on to the new cams. Obviously you saw my other video where I've already done that with the exhaust cams. To change these seals was a pretty simple thing. I undid these four. This whole ring gear just sort of sits there and can come off. And then just put the new seal back down there, and then reverse of what you did, just do these back up. I'll check for the torque specs, but they weren't very much. They wouldn't be very much anyways, because they're only little bolts. And then we'll slide them onto these, and if there are any new O-rings or anything like that I need to replace, we'll do those at the same time, and we'll go from there. .5 Newton meters, or 66 inch-pounds. Boom. Cool. I didn't see that before. Solves another mystery. Okay, here we go. So I've got them sitting in the head. Still got my service bolt in. Got 2 dots to 1 dot lined up for the left hand head. Now I'll chuck in some cam caps and we can start measuring some clearances. get you back up here for the time lapse. It's about this time that I realize one of my head studs is just touching the scissor gear part on the new cam. So, side quest, now I've got to pull the old bolt out, reset the height, and take about 0.5 millimeter off the top of the nut to get the required clearance. Alright, well that was a bloody mission. So I got him in. Halfway through that, you won't see it there, but I ended up having a problem with that head stud being too close to that scissor gear. So I had to do a bit of modification there. These are all down, torqued up. These are the measurements in thousandths of the amount of clearance I've got. So now, at least for the left-hand head, I know what bits and pieces are required. So now I will continue on. I'll quickly do the right-hand head, and that'll be me done for the day. It's probably worth talking to this just quickly. When using a feeler gauge, there is literally a feel to it. And the feeling that you ideally want is, and you can actually practice this outside of doing it actually on a car and stuffing it up, or getting it right by accident, is you get your feeler gauge, you put it in a glossy magazine or in between two glossy magazines, and you pull the feeler gauge out from the glossy magazines in like where the spine is, and you want to feel that sort of feeling, that drag along. That's the correct feel for the size of gauge that you're using. Or at least that's my belief, and that's what I've learned, and that's how I was taught. And that's it for this week.